Try before we die, everybody. The whiskey review show where we don't know what we're drinking, but we'll tell you what we're thinking. We're here with my pal. Hey, Aaron, what's going on?
How we doing today?
Did you knuckle Mal up out in the driveway to get a seat?
I guess he got sick or something.
Yeah, he couldn't make it. So we got Aaron here. You've been on the show before?
Yes, sir.
We appreciate you sitting in today.
Thank you.
You're probably okay having a taste of a whiskey.
Well, you know, it's...
Yeah, even though we don't know what, right, it's hard. I don't mean to twist your arm, even though we don't know what it's going to be, right? And again, that's the drill here. If you're new to us, we use our random number generator, Randy. Get it? Randy Random. And Randy will help us pick between the 551 bottles of whiskey in the bar for the show. We definitely have open bottles too. So let's find out what we're going to open tonight. Unscripted, unplanned. Here we go. Tonight it will be bottle number, and we start at number 1 here, and we go all the way to 550s here. Got a guess?
200s?
200s. All right. 342. It's hard. I lose track of things. It's either going to be right there, which I actually think ends at 36. So if I'm right, we're into a Glenlivet. We'll find out which one, or if I'm wrong. 342. Hey, everybody. So I was wrong. 242 would have brought us to the range I thought we were in. It was actually 342, which brings us to this shelf. And so we're at 339, 40, 41, 42, which brings us to our first Flora and Fauna release. So this is a Speyside. This is the Glen Spey, coming in at 43% ABV. And I believe this was Michael Jackson's release range that he had a big hand in. And I believe there are 26 or 28 bottlings. And recently, we've been trying to acquire a bunch of them. Probably see a couple in that row down there, a couple above my right shoulder by my head. So we're into it. Super excited to try one of these, because why would we buy it if we weren't going to try it? We'll see everybody back at the bar for this Glen Spey. Aaron,
How we doing?
I don't know if you heard over there, but we pulled our first Flora and Fauna release. The Glen Spey, a Speyside, coming in at 12 years and 43% ABV. I'm pretty excited about this, just because of not had any of these releases. This entire range is well thought of, and so I've been trying to get them.
Flora and Fauna, is that as far as like adding different botanicals or something?
I think, and I don't know a ton about it, but I would think that it would be about a lot of these whiskeys probably bring a lot of those notes, right? A lot of those grassies, those flowers, those lights. I've not seen a single one of the releases, and I'm going to be wrong on some of this, that's like a super dark, whiskey itself, right? They seem to generally be light, and the ones that are here, and there's probably somewhere 7 to 10 of them, probably getting close to half the range is here. And they all have this really nice, we'll talk about color in a minute, but let's get it breathing. All right, we're going to make it. All right, that was like the pop gun you would want as a kid that would send it, and you knew that it had backed up all that air until you released it. All right. It's hard to stop. Oh. All right, let's get these capped. All right, Aaron, so what do I know about your whiskey palate? I know you're a smoke peat kind of guy, right?
The darker
so
stuff.
We are definitely not going there today.
That's all right.
Right, but that's going to be okay?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So are you familiar with the Speyside region at all? Any whiskeys that come from there?
Not off the top of my head.
Right. I mean, it's a tough game, right? Yeah. And today it's a tougher game because with all the boutique bottlings and the different caskings, traditional regional flavors feel like they're getting a little lost at times. You can still find them, especially if you know what you're looking for. This leads me to believe that we're going to truly be in a traditional Speyside experience. And I think this idea of a flora and fauna really matches up well with the Speyside region.
More meadows, less peat.
Right, exactly right. More above the ground than the ground, right? It's going to be okay, right? I just feel like it's going to be okay. The other fun part here for me, and this may be true for you too, Aaron, is I believe this to be my first Glen Spey. So there are other releases here in the bar of Glen Spey, but they've not come up on the show. In fact, I'm pretty sure I got a bottle of from the 1970s here, and it's on the shelf, so that's an option. Again, always curious about these older malts when people were just making whiskey in the local style with the local ingredients for the locals, right? So always interested in that too. Okay, so we have this 43% ABV Glen Spey. It would stun me if this range had color added to it. I just don't believe that to be true. And what's neat is it's not the flora and fauna label. It's the label that lets you know what it is, right? So the words aren't there, but they all sort of have the animal creature or the nature scene on it, just in this nice classic, very light tan label. A little bit of a throwback, a little bit of class.
Almost matching the color of the whiskey.
Yeah, I really do like those labels. All right, what do you think for a color?
Definitely on the lighter side.
See if we can get some legs to show up. Generally speaking, I tend to see them in that glass, just the way the lighting works, more than I see them in my glass until they really develop.
Sticking pretty well, actually.
Yeah, I've got a nice high line. See if we can disrupt it a little and see what we can do for a leg. Oh, I've come a little high over the top. I've got some runners on the outside. That's okay.
Still grouping very.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, so again, usually I see this glass's legs before I see mine.
It's staying right up there.
Yeah, and you've got some that are dropping, but it's like just sort of at its leisure. Yeah, nice whiskey sticking to the glass. I always like that look, right? It's good to know that when you run it up, you can tell something's been there. All right, so a light whiskey, I feel like we're in a medium gold.
Yeah, maybe a little darker hint to it, but
right.
That's just wishful thinking.
Right. You keep hoping it will transform into a sherry cask with peat, but it's certainly not a light gold.
No.
Right. I mean, it's a lighter whiskey. I feel like we're in a medium. Maybe even a burnished. Could be knocking on bronze's door, but I don't think it's completely there. Right. But nice color.
Absolutely.
All right. Should we see what it smells like? Or just call it quits and leave? No, we've gone this far, right? Did you hear about the fella who? I'm Polish, everybody, so forgive me. I guess I get to tell a Polish joke. Did you hear about the Polish fella who swam halfway across the wet lake and turned back because it was too far to get to the other side? We've come this far. We might as well finish. There's no turning back. All right, light.
It's light.
Very light.
It's got a sweet note.
Yeah, all right. I'll agree with that sweet note. And absolutely a grassy field. God, I don't know if that's wheat in that field. Sometimes it feels funny to go, I wonder if it's heather, right? Just because, there are 100+ recognized flavors to Scotch whiskey, right? And so sometimes it feels like you recycle the notes, but we're really not recycling the notes. We're telling the truth, right? The ingredients are so simple, right? And then the law requires the process be the same, specific for all the whiskeys. So we're going to come across similar notes, right? I feel like there's some honey in there on the nose.
Yeah, that's the sweetness to it, possibly honey.
I'm always a fan of whether on the nose or on the palate, you can find the red berries not in a sherry cask, right? To see how that could develop. It's not very alcohol at all, right? It's not asking you to gear up for this drink, right? It's just like, you guys just going to keep smelling me or taste me, right? There's no like, all right, get ready, right? You know, we're not at a 61.2 peated whiskey, right? And that's a get ready whiskey, right?
Almost offensive to the nose sometimes.
Right. This is a let's go whiskey. All right, let's go, buddy.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right, 43%, the Glen Spey Flora and Fauna release. Got a little bit more in the mouth than it had on the nose.
I feel like I can taste the oak almost.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's almost woody.
Yeah, there's some real oaky spice in here. Far more than the nose gives away, right?
Yeah.
The nose is so light and clean, and, and this has a little bite to it.
Burn on the back.
Yeah, it's warm.
Yeah.
All right. So, and that's the dominant experience right off the bat on the first pull. So now see if we can find some flavors. All right, now that my mouth was ready for the spice, there really are some flavors up top. And is it
I think you were right with the honey on the smell, though. It's got a little bit to there.
Mm-hmm. So I agree. I wonder if there's a honeyed apple in here or something, right? Sort of brought together like a honey smoked apple. No smoke though, right? Just trying to find the way to describe the marriage of honey and apple rather than being two different things. It's really one thing. Right. Maybe a baked apple with honey.
I'm almost towards pear than apple.
Okay.
I guess, yeah.
Okay. But we're in that same family of trees, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm more. You feel. Got to try a little bit more.
Some caramel, but I would say that comes with the oaky kind of.
Right. It's on the border of something like dark-ish in there.
Yeah,
I hear you on this caramel.
Bitterness to the end.
Right, but we got this oaky spice. We've got this honeyed tree fruit. Can we go with a honeyed tree fruit?
Yep.
A baked tree fruit, baked in honey. Something slightly darkly sweet, wrapped right around that spicy area.
Yeah.
This may require a little bit more experimentation.
It's quite good. I'll give it that.
Just a bit more, sir. I like this. Zero question, I like it. And so what I'm going to look forward to is as we have an opportunity to try more of the Flora and Fauna range to just see if there's a theme going through here. But this is not a simple whiskey. It's not a complicated whiskey, but there's an element of complexity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So it's interesting, especially the difference between the very light nosing and the moderately complex taste profile. It is not thin as a whiskey.
It sticks to your mouth.
Right, right. And it is not chewy, but it is right in between, right? So it's got some nice mouthfeel, I guess, is what we're noting there. The Glen Spey, and my first Glen Spey is perhaps yours too.
Might as well, yes.
So what's interesting is I can't reflect on, is this consistent with Glen Spey's spirit or distillate? Because I don't have that experience. So this is building that reservoir of understanding. Yeah. All right. Aaron.
Yes, sir.
So it feels like we like this whiskey.
I'd try it again.
Yeah. So I actually brought down some sea salt chocolate, some 2-year Australian cheddar, and some probably 6 or 8 month New York cheddar. What do you think is the match for this particular whiskey?
I mean, they all would, I think, complement it because of the bitterness and the sweetness, obviously, from the chocolate. I'm just a sucker for old cheddar. So.
Yeah, I am too. I feel like the chocolate might become a little dominant, right? Because there's a lightness to this spirit too. As much as we're discussing mouthfeel and complexity, it is really, you're looking for it, you're finding it, you're recognizing it's there. I think a dark chocolate like this may overpower some of that, right? So that brings us to this 2-year cheddar, or this 6 or 8 month New York cheddar. I love this 2-year cheddar. Like it pops with crystals, right? And so I'm going to sell how awesome it is, but I'm actually going to have the New York cheddar because I believe the creaminess of that is going to be the one that pairs the best without dominating any of the whiskey experience. Truth be told, I'll probably end up doing both, whether on camera or off. But the one that I think will match well will be the creamy. My position. Feel free to.
No, I'll try that.
All right.
That makes sense.
You see what I mean on this creamy cheddar?
Yeah, no doubt.
It's not a potent, pungent cheddar. It's not sharp. And so for me, that's a beautiful marriage of whiskey and cheese. They just melt together, and the flavors of the cheese and the whiskey maintain their own potency the whole way. And that potency, of course, is mild to moderate. Neither of them bring a severe element.
It was a good call.
Yep, this cheese is severe, and we've had severe whiskeys before in the most positive sense of the word. I think it was a good call, right? I'm familiar with this cheese. I'm familiar, and you are too. All right, our first Flora and Fauna, 43%. Our first Glen Spey. A creamy cheddar really works well. I mean, I'm still having whiskey and cheese in my mouth. So let's see what the crew has for us for a toast as we wrap up this episode of TBWD. All right. Out with the old and in with the new. Cheers to the future and all that we do. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So this whiskey, I think, is just a wonderful opening to our own understanding of the Flora and Fauna range. It just wets the mouth, gets me real curious about what the rest of the range will be, and I'm super excited to have had my first Glen Spey distillate, unadulterated in many ways as far as I'm concerned, traditional casking, I suspect. This is a nice glass of whiskey.
Is it more of a typical Speyside? Because I'd be willing to venture away.
Okay, you're willing to move to Speyside? My bottom dollar says this is a traditional Speyside experience.
It's excellent.